Welcome to Call with Dads. Let's talk.
Now that we know that we're not totally nuts in all this, and I actually am doing things properly, Pastor Ron, you've known me and my family for, oh, criminy, I don't even know how long it's been now, to be honest with you.
It's probably 30
I
some,
mean,
30 years. I don't know, 30 some, 35.
yeah, it's been a while.
It's
We'll
been
say
a,
it that way.
yeah.
But with all that, you've seen a lot of stuff through the families, through raising your own kids. You've if I'm not mistaken, you started the church that I started at, that I got
Right,
to know you. Then you started a new church
right.
later as well.
Yes.
So you started up two churches. You've watched families, you've watched society, and you've done it from several points in life with different views. How about this? So basically, you started life with a lot of different viewpoints. You've had the whole thing of seeing it as a pastor, seeing it as a father, you're seeing it as a grandfather now. I mean, we've all lived different lives. Now,
Yes.
everyone, like, call me funny. I'm one of these people that when I think of my pastor, I'm like, oh, well, they must have just been born a pastor. I mean, I hate to say, when you think of your pastor, you don't think, oh, well, they have this life and this life, and you're like, oh, they must have went to school, been a pastor, or wanting to be a pastor, came out of school. That's a lot of mentality people think about pastors.
Right,
That's not the case with you, though, right?
right. That's right. That's right. No, at a fairly young age, I kind of thought I had a call in my life, but um, in the church I was in when I grew up, why that meant I had to go to school for 8 years. And I was just married. Actually, we had a child, and 8 years just didn't seem to make sense to me. So I kind of put that on a back burner and basically, went to work, got a job, worked at Marathon Oil Company for a while in an office, and that was a good job, but I didn't like being in an office. So then I got a job in sales in the farm community. I really liked that because it got me in touch with people. I think it helped me a lot to know how to present myself and know how to talk to people and it had a lot of ups and downs. It was sales, pure commission. So
Oh,
you just didn't know what was coming. I got it built up, so it was good. I did that for 10 years, and then my dad retired, and I always kind of thought I wanted to farm. That was kind of my second dream, and so I I got to start farming in a year and a half, and in a process of things, the Lord spoke to me, and a group of us left the Lutheran church, and we met in the basement of a house. And in that basement, I thought the Lord spoke to me and said, "You're going to be the pastor." And then it was about 6 years or 6 months later, through a lot of things that happened, why then I became the pastor and started the church, and so I think I was 40 when that happened, and I think it's a good thing. I don't know, everybody's got a different path, but for me, it was good. I felt like I could connect with people. I sometimes think maybe if you go to school and come out and get a job doing something, you never really have a real touch with real life, maybe as much as you should. So I've tried to stay pretty connected to real people, even when I'm a pastor, and I've always kind of kept things pretty simple. So that's how I went through into the ministry, and I'm kind of a unique. Well, I don't know if I'm unique or not, but I left the sales force, and at the time, I when I left sales, and I became a pastor, the fella that was overseeing me at that time, he sent out a letter to all the farmers and said that I would be leaving the sales and going into a better call. And so one of my friends who I'd known for years said, "Well, what makes you think you're a pastor?" Because basically that was my step. It was just, okay, I think I'm supposed to do this. And he said, "What makes you think you're a pastor?" And I said, "Well, I guess when I get to church and people are there, I'm still a pastor. And if I get to church someday and nobody's there, I'm not a pastor anymore. And he said, well, that's probably true. So anyway, it's that's how I've kind of kept it pretty simple. And really, we had our children were pretty near raised by the time I became a pastor. Yeah.
All right. So now, with that being said, you felt the calling all this, and instead of going straight into it, you ended up becoming an office worker at Marathon and then went into
Sales.
sales, just
Right.
like most everyone does. Everyone goes into a job, they
Yeah.
need to make money to pay the bills, raise their kids, so on and so on.
Right.
What, how, how did raising your kids go with that feeling of having a call, but like basically, did you use a lot of God's words? Did you use the Bible to kind of guide you on doing this, or do you do it
With
like most
raising
of
our
us did?
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And when I felt like I didn't know how I was going to become a pastor, one of the things I did was my wife and I, we committed that we was going to just work as hard as we could in the church.
Hmm.
And so our desire was to be involved in the church, Bible studies. Um, I led Bible studies, and we did a lot of studying. We studied like a lot of Dobson's Focus on the Family. There was somebody
Hmm.
that wrote a book. Larry Christensen wrote a book on Christian family, and we really tried to follow a lot of those principles that we thought were biblical principles raising our kids. And I always say when you're all done and look back, it's hard because you think, boy, I could have done that better, and I could have done it. Well, I shouldn't have done that. And I don't know. Sometimes I think we're real critical of ourselves. Sometimes we could do better. You don't get to practice raising kids. There's no practice.
No.
You don't get two shots at it. So, it's kind of like, here we go. And yeah, and we made a decision, and we tried to live our life consistent with what we were telling our kids. I think
Mhm.
that's pretty important. It's being real and just being honest about a lot of things.
Yeah. So what did you do, like when you first either first became a parent or right before, like when you and your wife discussed like different types of situations and scenarios and how to's and what should we and this and that, to ensure that that both of you were like on the same page in your parenting. You know what I mean? Is
Yeah.
I would say me and my wife on at least one thing are not on the same page at all. Like I believe when my daughter's probably about 7 now. She'll be 7 in December, so it's like a month or two. She's basically 7. But when like for me, I think when she was like 2, I mean, she should have got her butt whooped a little bit harder and a little bit more. But according to
Yeah.
my wife, I wasn't allowed to do it at
You-
all.
Yeah.
And I respect her wishes.
Yeah.
We work together. This isn't just a me thing. So I
Right.
think a lot of her issues today would have been solved if she'd have known better. You know what I mean? So now she's testing the waters, and now I'm
Oh
having to
yeah.
fight with her.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So what
Um,
did you guys
and
do to stay on
I
on the same
think
page?
I think our backgrounds were real similar. Okay.
Yeah.
We both came from a rural background. We went to the same church. I'd say our parents had the same basic convictions about what was right and wrong. Um,
Yeah.
so when we started raising children, we were pretty much together. And
Mhm.
and as we followed and read something, and we would share it and talk about it, and we were pretty much together. Now, I think that's pretty important because
Yeah.
when parents aren't together on something, children have a unique way of figuring that out,
Mhm.
and they will put a wedge in there, and they will know who to use.
That's
They will
exactly
know
what she
they will know
does.
where to go, and
Mhm.
I think it's really detrimental.
Yeah.
As I counsel some young families now, um, sometimes the question of discipline will come up, and I've got some folks who um, are on welfare, and nothing wrong with that, but they're on welfare, so they're involved in the system a lot more. Well, because of that, it's I'm real careful to say, well, I still believe in spanking. Now I don't believe in
Mhm.
beating. I believe in
Right.
spanking,
Right.
and
Yeah.
do it the right way. But
Mhm.
Hmm.
it's really difficult because what I found was these children in this family, this one specific family, they're so smart. They figured this out. So they go to school, and to get attention, they'll make up stories about their parents doing things to them. And this family's
Mhm.
had welfare come and check them. One time they said, "We don't have any food at home." And welfare come out. Well, there's food in the house. But the
Yeah.
kids did it because at first they thought they could get their parents in trouble. And so then they say, well, what do I do about it? Well, what can you do? That's the big
Yeah.
question. Now, I said, whatever you do, it's got to hurt. Now, I'm not thinking physically, but if you don't believe in physical spanking,
Mhm.
whatever you do still has to hurt. Otherwise, it's not gonna have
It's
an
not gonna
effect
do
on
nothing. Yeah. If
because they're
there's
just
no
gonna blow it off.
repercussions, it's like who cares? Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and that's the way their one son is. He kind of just blows it off like,
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything.
And
Um,
my
so
daughter does feel the pain. You know what I mean?
okay,
Um, just in certain ways because we try to like. I mean, now her being 7, it's almost kind of like
yeah,
can't really spank her. Just, she's beyond it.
yeah,
I mean, I could beat the piss out of her if I wanted to, but then
yeah.
what does that solve? She just hates me now. You know what I mean?
It's
So
Right.
she's old
yeah,
enough and intelligent enough to set
yeah,
that to not understand or to
right,
understand that it's not appropriate or whatever. Um, but so today, now I have to like talk to her about it, like show her problems, give her explanations. Like one of the things she did this morning, it's fresh in my head.
right.
Um, she threw a fit and she had a little like chewable vitamin thing.
Uh,
Um, and she threw a fit because I guess her banana she was trying to snap it, and when she went to snap it, it smushed instead of snapped.
yeah,
So she got real mad and she grabbed her chewable thing and slung it. Well, our dog refuses to let anything food related hit the floor, so immediately out. Granted, it's just a vitamin, so she'll be fine. Nothing bad gonna happen to her. But we've had oh no's about like an ibuprofen or like I have some other medication that I take like omeprazole for my stomach and whatever else. And I've had an oh no where I've dropped it before and she knows that. So immediately me and my wife immediately were like, "Oh my goodness, what did you do?" And the dog ate it. We had to tell her, well, how do we know she's not going to get sick now? So we had to use that in order to get her
yeah,
to understand the repercussions. And she got upset, and then we went and talked to her about it. We're like, it's just a vitamin, so she won't get sick, but
yeah, yeah.
you need to,
And,
so,
I think as a parent, one of the things we have to remember, we're constantly training, so it's
yeah,
not pretty. And so
yeah,
every bad situation is a training moment. And you
right.
hope after a few of them, you got them, they learn
Yeah.
something. But
Collectively
it's
be
all
all
training.
right.
It's
Yeah,
all part of a process. And sometimes as parents, I think we want them to get there a little quicker.
yeah.
Um, I don't know. I don't know what exactly. I guess I have some opinions. I've shared them at church, but what I notice, I think just because of society and what's around us, um, children tend to be a little more quick to question everything. I don't remember questioning my parents that much. Now, I don't, maybe I
Right.
did, but I just, I don't know. I just didn't do what I didn't do what I see now.
Hmm.
And I think it's a product of a couple generations. I think it takes longer than you think to get where we're at.
Hmm.
Um, and I've thought about my background. I was raised on a farm. Well, you can't put all kids on a farm and say, I mean, I had chores to do. Work was first. When you got your work done, then you could play. I mean, it
My
was,
daughter
Mm.
needs to be, that's where she needs to be is a
yeah.
farm.
And I've thought about, I mean, as a kid, I mowed grass. Yeah, I mowed grass with a push mower without an engine, you
Mhm.
know, and and so I think a parent's got to figure out how to instill certain things in their children without the accessibility of easy things like chores. On the farm, you just had chores. I mean, we worked to survive, kind of, and
Right.
you were just part of that. Well, that's not how we are today.
Yeah.
Um, when I oh, probably 50 years ago. When I was at Marathon, actually, I went to a purchasing meeting in Columbus, Ohio, and I heard a gentleman speak down there. I don't know who he was. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't remember a thing what he said except this. He said when my father, his generation came back from World War II, been through the Depression, their attitude was, I will never let my children go through that. So he said what they did was, he says they had the attitude that they had to give them everything, prevent them from ever having a hard time. And he said that's detrimental.
That's
And
bad.
so now children feel like everybody owes them something.
Hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
it's been two or three generations.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know if they're going to outgrow it. I hope. But now you see kids that are 22, 23, 25. I just the other day somebody said their grandchild's living in a bedroom in their parents' home, and all he wants to do is play video games all day. And he's 23 years old.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't think this is going to work. Now, I don't think everybody's like that. Don't get me wrong, but I think we have a lot of entitlement out there,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
and we can't tell them no. That's another thing. I think parents, as I watch, they're afraid to tell their kids no.
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
afraid to say no.
Yeah.
It's
That's like that should be like your daily vocabulary is no.
yeah, it's I don't know. And another thing I
And
notice is
because I said so, that's why.
yeah,
That's
well that's
and
what
no
it
other
is.
reason. It doesn't need to be a
And
reason. It's
we
because
used
I
to say,
said no.
I'm the parent, you're the
Right.
child.
Yeah. Right.
But
Yeah.
I'm amazed that kids that are 5 years old and after church, parents say, well, where do you want to go eat? Well, see, I mean, they'll have an opinion, but I don't know that kids ought to be making those kinds of decisions at
Yeah.
5. It's
That's
like
one
just,
thing my wife does a little more than I do. Like for me, I'm like, who cares what she wants? I'm making dinner. Get over it. Eat it or don't.
well, that's,
You're old
yeah.
enough to starve.
Well, when we were kids, if you didn't want to eat it, we'd put it in the refrigerator. And when you decided you were hungry, we'd get it back out and you could eat it.
Yeah.
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 I
Oh,
will
I've
throw
I've
this in on
yeah.
that front. Like I do ask my son, I'm like, I'm gonna make something for dinner. Do you have any suggestions? Because one
Yeah.
thing, I homeschool and he's at home all day as I'm planning. So like he even said, I want grilled cheese. I'm like, okay, I can make grilled cheese sandwiches along with chicken wings and corn or baked beans, something on the side.
Mhm.
Uh,
I said, so I can make something that works, but I'm not going to wait till last minute.
Yeah.
My reasoning for doing it is I want him to also have a bit of involvement in it.
yeah.
But if he's asking,
Yeah.
I want, who knows? If he says, I want a filet mignon, I'm going to say, get a job,
Yeah.
you know? But
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah. And I think involving them, and there's a point where, and it depends on the child too. If you're raising a type A, they want to be involved in everything. They want to tell you what to do and everything, and you got to control that. Some
Mhm.
children you got to encourage them to think, and what would you like and think about it. But some children, it's like they have an opinion about everything. They want to
Yeah.
be in charge. Yeah, so it kind of depends on each child. They're all different.
Yeah,
That's the hard
we do
part.
that with my daughter as well, but just not all the time. Like my wife does it more than she should, honestly. Like always asking her, "What do you want for dinner?" Or if we're gonna go out this weekend or something, where do you want to go? Or stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah,
And I don't mind it like once in a while. That's fine. You know what I mean?
right.
Just to involve her in the family, but
yeah.
every freaking day is her choice? No,
Well,
absolutely not.
that gives her the impression that she has as much say or maybe more than you.
Right.
And
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
like I don't know that that's healthy for the child. I don't
Right. She doesn't do it
No.
every day, but it
Yeah.
does happen more often than I would like it. Like I would be okay with like once a week we ask her for her opinion just to involve her in the family, and after that,
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah. And
You
I
know?
think some nowadays, I think people tend to want to be their child's friend more than they want to be
Yeah.
the parent.
Hmm.
Right.
So they want to make sure that they like them, you
Right.
know,
I
and
don't care if she likes me or
and
not. She will
Yeah.
when she's old.
Well, like my son the other day says, Daddy, I hate you. And I said, guess what? You're going to hate me a lot throughout your life.
Yeah. Yeah. My daughter too.
And
Yeah.
I told him, I explained to him, I am not here to be your friend. I am
Yeah.
not here to make you feel happy all the time. I'm here to
Mm,
make you grow up, be good, be productive, and not become somebody that's going to be a drain on
yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
around you.
That's right. That's right.
Mm,
And yeah, that's the big difference. I've seen, like, looking at the difference between when you raised your kids versus like what I'm doing right now. Well, like your
Right.
grandkids. What and I want to throw this caveat in because I've heard people say, "Oh, well, I just want to raise my kids the way I was raised." Well, you can't do that. That's
yeah.
nonsense because, like, even for me, I was raised in the 80s and 90s. The world's nothing like that.
Right.
I
Right.
mean,
Or like
I
I have an
remember
85-inch flat screen TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like
my
what you buy today. There's not
Yeah.
really anything else.
I don't know. I have a 20-year-old TV, so but we
Yeah.
don't spend our money on that. But
And
Yeah.
Eric,
what?
that's a big question because coming from my background, I
Mhm.
can't I can't make everybody live the way I lived growing up. It just
Hmm.
won't
Right.
work.
No.
But I think there's principles that still apply. And I
Yeah.
think we have to hunt for those things, hunt for things that are true, hunt for principles, um, teach our kids principles like working. Um, Now, it's interesting to me, just along the line of technology, it's interesting, all the kids, the little kids, they all got phones. So they don't have a phone, they're on their parents' phone, and that's okay. But isn't it interesting now the schools in our area are finally saying, okay, no phones in the school, you know? And I think, wow, somebody's finally saying there can be too much.
Hmm.
And you
Hmm.
can take it to a point that it's not healthy.
Right.
I just find that interesting because I thought that, but then I think, well, maybe I'm just old, you
Yeah.
know.
And
Well,
I'm a firm believer that I mean, in today's day and age, in school, they should learn to use computers and
hmm.
iPads and
Yeah,
iPhones and technology. But
yes,
up until they're like in ninth grade, they really don't need it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Until they're like in high school. And even then, it should really only be like a class, like in this one class out of your 10 classes or whatever, should be the
yeah,
only class who uses it because they don't need to sit on technology all day. They
yeah,
need to learn how to do it with their
yes,
head,
yes.
paper, but they do need to implement it some.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
As a homeschooling dad, I kind of have a little now. I've spoken with different parents where they are completely their kids won't touch a tablet till they're teenagers.
uh,
Now, like,
Yeah.
I am horrible at teaching math. I'll admit it. We tried to do this online in-person math class, right? And it was every Saturday and Sunday, and then do homework on Monday morning. Those were my three most hated days because, but we ended up doing this AI math system through a computer, which now he does on the tablet.
Hmm.
And we do a homeschool curriculum online.
mhm,
And then we're getting rid of that because we're doing more co-op stuff. But the general gist of what we do is, like, if he's looking for something, we'll say, okay, you can look it up, then close it and move on.
Hmm.
Because even that's one thing is, like, they always want to watch YouTube videos. They always want to watch something. And that's, I think, where the problem starts because I have to really watch my kid to make sure that they don't get too focused on it because it's designed to make them angry and focus and
Hmm.
wanting more of it. It's addictive, I think.
Yeah.
yes. And when you teach them to use it a certain period of time or for so long, you're teaching them
Mhm.
to learn discipline and self-control, which we need that. We need to learn to
Yeah.
control ourselves, that I can just do whatever I want, whenever I want, as long as I want. No, you need to learn self-control. And
Yeah.
so I think that's part of that teaching. It's not to say, okay, you can't have a computer, period,
Right.
but it's to
Hmm.
teach and train them how to be disciplined in using that. Yeah.
like that certain time frame. Yeah. I think one of for me, when it comes to like technology and TV, my daughter likes to get on the YouTubes, and every time we catch her on it, we're like, no, like, I'll snatch the remote from her because the YouTube's on the TV or whatever, and I'll
Uh-huh.
snatch it from her and won't let her use it or whatever. But we let her watch a couple of shows. One of them is her favorite because it's called Aquanauts, but it's
Oh yeah.
very informative, oddly, about like marine animals. So she loves it, and she's always learning. So we let her watch it sometimes. Um, but one of the main things that we did was, for the first 3 years of her life, they didn't even have a TV in the house, just at all. Zero.
Yeah.
Like, no TV. No one watched TV. Me, my wife. I mean, we
Right.
would go into our room and
Cry.
yeah, there was nothing to do, right? There was no watching our
Yeah.
shows. There was no,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And same with her. Read books, and that's what we did. We collected, we probably have like 1,000 book library, if not more, just in our
Oh,
house, all kids books.
Yeah.
And my daughter's read all of them 6 times over, if not more than that. And she still to this day gets new ones and more and just reads and reads. But it's basically turned her into like a bookworm,
Uh-huh.
because that's,
Which is good.
honestly, one of the only things there was to do. So, and like, she'll watch TV for about 30 minutes and she'll be like, and she'll turn it off all
Well,
by
that's
herself. Like, we won't have to tell her to do
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that is what helped
Like,
it.
and you've trained her. I mean,
Yeah.
you've taught her some of that. Because
Mhm.
that's not nowadays, that I wouldn't say that's natural.
Mhm.
right.
Most kids don't do that. I always find it interesting. And you said, they just love to go to YouTube. And I have this one parent, I watch them, and their kids, they want to sneak mom's phone and get on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I'm always
Yeah.
like, why?
Because it's
What?
never ending content. It's just every
Mhm.
time something is
But they can
uh,
always find something.
done, yep, next,
Mhm.
next, you can next, over and over and over. It's just
Yeah.
never ending content. It's the same thing with like TikTok and Facebook Reels. It's the same format. So it's just over and over. It's designed to keep you there. And like, we keep YouTube for the Aquanauts because we refuse Netflix. We won't. Netflix isn't allowed in our house because they're very LGBT pro and stuff, and I'm just, no, just keep that out of my house.
Yeah.
So we won't do Netflix at all. But Aquanauts is on Netflix, so the only other way to get it is on YouTube.
Oh,
So we keep it for Aquanauts, and we keep it also for like teaching. So like, my daughter she's been learning sign language and Spanish for like the last like 2 years, and she's pretty good at it,
uh,
and she knows all the stuff, and she teaches me, I mean, I
how old
come
is,
home
how
from
old is
work.
she? How old is she?
She's 6, she'll be 7 this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So I mean,
she speaks English and Korean and mostly Spanish, and
wow.
she's learning sign
Yeah.
language.
So you're
Jeez.
teaching. I mean, that's what you teach. You teach them.
Yeah.
One of the things I say at church, and it's kind of it's a biblical truth, I think, isn't it interesting? You never have to teach your kids to do something bad.
Right.
You don't have to say, "I want to teach you how to lie." Your
Yeah,
kids, your
they just know.
it's in them. It's in them.
Mhm.
Our sinful nature's there. I think as a parent, what we have to do is try to teach them the right things, because
Mhm.
the wrong things are natural.
They
They
just come,
just
yeah,
do them. They do them.
I
because
think.
there's someone out there that's
That's right.
pushing you
Mhm.
to do it.
Yep. Yep.
I think I heard somebody once say that he was in a debate and somebody said that humans are naturally good. And he goes, okay, well, let's look at this then. If people are naturally good, why is it that every parent has to remind their kids 100 times in one day to say please and thank you?
Yes.
So, and
Yep.
that's the truth is
And you've
like,
you've never taught your kids to say, "I hate that."
no,
You,
But
you
they do.
never
Yeah.
yeah,
you never have taught them that.
Yeah.
yeah. So I know people, and what is it? I also heard somebody once say that every villain's the hero of their own story.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things that, you know, today's society, It's all about my truth, about my reality, my feelings, my.
Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep.
It's a
And
product of our environment.
right. And one thing that like I try to work with my kids on, I don't know how well I'm doing about it. I hope I'm doing well, but is I'm like, look at it. When you're acting rude, look who you affect by doing this. You affect your mom, you affect me, you affect
Mhm.
all the other people around you, you affect your sister, you affect the cats, blah, blah, blah. You
Yeah,
get the gist of it. Where I don't want my kids to be thinking that their feelings is all that matters because
Right.
I've tried to explain to them when I go to work, I can guarantee you my boss might sit there and say, well, how are you doing? And all this. But when it comes down to it, he's going to say, so are you feeling well enough to get your job done?
right.
Are you happy enough to keep working at your best performance? That's
No.
his real concern. And even when I was a boss, everything okay? You doing well? Because I wanted to make sure they were in the right mind to get the
Mhm.
job done.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just nature.
yeah. One of the things I want to share, one of the things I think is important as a Christian is to be real with your kids, to make Christianity real, show them that it's
Mhm.
real to you and it's real to them, and pray with them, be honest about things. I remember times when if I messed up, because as parents we do mess up, and we got to be willing to admit it and say to our kids, "Hey, I was wrong.
Mhm.
I was
Hmm.
wrong. Forgive me," and be honest about those things and teach them. And I think they do that when they see that it's real to you.
Yeah.
In other words, you don't just say it, but you actually believe that.
Mhm.
And I think that's just really important. And you talk to them about the faith, your faith, their faith,
Yeah.
um, those things. So I think because
Mhm.
raising kids, there's this physical, mental side to it, doing the right thing, and that, but there's a spiritual side to it too. That um, we just need God helping us.
Yeah.
I I tell you,
We
it's a
actually we we pray with our daughter at like dinner and stuff like that. But it actually gave me a good idea that I should probably like maybe have like nighttime prayers or something before bed and stuff, maybe with
yes,
her and
yeah,
the wife.
yeah,
But what we do already, my wife has it's a devotions Bible, just every day a different devotion.
yeah,
My wife and her, they go and do mommy daughter time every night in the room.
uh,
She's got one of those big loft beds where she
yeah,
sleeps up here, you know what I mean? So underneath they have like a little kind of pad and all her little toys and all her little signs and pictures of fish and whatever else she likes. That's like her little cave. So
yeah,
them two, they lay in there and they read the devotions book every night, and then they my daughter reads it, and then my wife kind of asks her what she thinks it means and kind of tries to help her explain to her. That's been ongoing for like a couple of years now. So
that's good. And a daughter needs her dad. She needs her
yeah,
dad too. Daughters
Hmm.
oh yeah,
they
big
need their
time.
dad.
Yeah. Now, here's one thing is, and I kind of popped in my head because I guess I kind of went through this myself in a way is once I grew up, got on my own, went out and ended up basically dealing with the real world on my own.
Right.
I joke now that in my lifetime I've been officially kicked out of 5 churches in my life.
Okay.
And you know, it sounds bad, but one was because of a girl. The first one was because there was a rumor that and the church didn't bother asking me. They just said, "We heard this about you, get out." So, and then the other ones were because I started asking questions and I said, I'm trying to understand this. And the pastors didn't want to go into it. So they said I was raising issues or problems and
uh,
so on and so on.
yeah.
So, and even
Start talking
now,
about the ice wall and the flat earth. Is that what happened?
no, I honestly didn't. I honestly didn't know all about that until probably a couple years ago, to be honest.
Like the pastors are over there like, they got us. The flat Earth
But
is real. Run.
but like one of the big things even now is like finding a church that is actually working. Like for a while I found one and then they merged with another church and
Uh,
it just doesn't feel right. And but a lot of the churches out here I heard that I watch their streams or watch their videos, they're not preaching from the Bible. I watched one church where the pastor didn't even have a Bible, no scriptures up, didn't mention any scriptures. And it was like he had a little piece of paper that he held. And I'm sitting there going, okay, that feels suspicious. I would look up, I'd have to Google and use IA and looked it up, and nothing he said was in the Bible.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
sitting there going, how can churches do that now? And people like me that's been through my adventures would say, how can I trust a church? And who do I believe to make sure I raise my kids right so that they get to heaven?
Well,
Do you know who Pastor Mark Driscoll is? You ever heard of him?
yeah.
I
He's a
haven't.
pretty big famous guy. He's got a church. It's over in like Arizona or something. He's on Facebook and stuff all the time. Big famous guy. But um, he said hell will be filled with pastors, and it's
Yeah.
probably
Ever read
true.
Don?
I mean, there's a million pastors out there that are not. They pretend, and
Hmm.
You know,
it's a
you know,
terrible thing, and that's one of the worst things you can do is
yeah,
use God's name to benefit. We
yeah.
got a
Hmm.
mega church down the street from my house.
Well, Eric, I think that's to me that's a real issue, and I don't know. I've always tried, and I don't know that I've always succeeded, but I've tried to welcome anybody, even people who have questions or doubts, because I thought as a pastor, I was to help those people try to find their way, not condemn them or,
Right.
because everybody's at a different place. And so
Mhm.
I've always tried. Now, here's what happens. So if you allow those people in the church, I say allow, but if you allow those people in the church, it makes everybody uneasy
Mhm.
because we're trying to get everybody to fit a mold. See, we want everybody to look like whatever we think a Christian should be. And so
Right.
if you bring people in that don't fit the mold, what do you do with them? And then we
Yeah.
think, well, then we try to decide who's right. And I think we got to quit doing that stuff, I think, for to be healthy. Now,
Mhm.
Right.
consequently, you know, and I'm at a point in life that, I told somebody yesterday, I said, I don't mean this, but I don't care if another person comes to my church. Now, I want more people and we get new people, but that's not my drive. In other words, my drive isn't to get another body inside the building. My drive is to help people become what God would have them to be. And if I
Mhm.
can help them, so that means I'm going to get people, coming from. And lately, we've been getting a lot of people who are now been off drugs for a little while, and they're trying to find their way, and they're working at it. And I think it's our job to encourage them. But what you find is churches start to get to a point where people feel spiritual, and then they feel like other people are a threat to their spirituality or something, and don't ask a question.
Don't
Yeah.
make me question my beliefs.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Because maybe I don't have an
Makes
answer, and I
sense.
don't want to look foolish. You may
Right.
ask me a question. I go, hey, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah, it
important thing
makes
is
sense.
because there's so much in the Bible that as far as I'm aware, it's almost impossible to know everything in there and have all the answers.
Right.
And I I remember I first time I read the Bible was just so that I was able to debate it with
Uh-huh.
people
Yeah.
and be able to discuss different things and understand the theories and all the the prophecies and everything, the laws. I forget what they're all called now. It's been a while. But
Mhm.
generally there's so much in there. It's you can remember a lot of the stories and a lot of the teachings and so on and so on. And I'll admit, I try to raise my kids the best I can to the Christian faith, and I know that I'm getting quite a bit wrong, even though I'm trying. And that's all we can do as far as I'm aware is try our best and look
Right.
and
And
follow what we can.
yeah, I think one of the things I find as I get older, which we all get older, but as I got to a point where I'm definitely older, um, is I think I know less the older I get. That's been kind of an interesting phenomenon. I sometimes I have less answers the older I get, and I thought I'd have more answers, and I don't know. I mean, some things you do, but then there's things like, wow, I don't know, you know. So I think, and sometimes I think God wants us that way to keep seeking Him. If we had all the answers, we wouldn't need Him.
Mhm.
Yeah. I
True.
mean, I think it's always good to at least if there's a couple Bible verses to like that really like hit home to latch on to, but to keep the rest in your mind as much as possible because like you said, you're not going to be able to
Yeah,
remember everything. It's
yeah,
impossible. But I mean, there's a few out there that I've like latched onto, and
yeah,
I know this like I have one specific one that's my favorite, and I mean, I keep that one forever. You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
but
yeah.
but yeah, I can't remember the whole thing. It's impossible.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's
And
a big book.
then churches get off on tangents and try to talk about stuff that doesn't even matter. That just drives me crazy. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like they're never going to figure it out because nobody has, and they keep talking about it because it's good conversation, I guess. But I don't know. It seems kind of futile.
Well, I can't argue with you there. Here's something that just popped in my head, and
All right.
you will you have a perspective that Pancakes and I would not. Is it's kind of a two-sided question. As a grandfather,
Uh-huh.
one, how do you look at building the relationship and maintaining your relationship with your grandkids? And how do you make sure you don't become either one of the grandparents that are, because there's a trend now where grandparents are kind of, do whatever, I'll come around when it's convenient for me,
Mhm.
Uh,
or it's the grandparents that are trying to always be involved to the point that the parents are like, just give us a break.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting with our grandchildren. We Mary homeschooled one of our grandchildren, and sat our grandchildren up until they went to school. So we were really involved with our we babysat and had our grandchildren until they were in school.
All right.
When they got into school, they were on their own a little bit more. We still tried to keep them up, but we always remembered that we weren't the parent. There's boundaries. We're the grandparent, and
Mhm.
we don't try to be the parent. And somebody said, well, grandparents there to spoil the kids and send them back home. I said, that's the most ungodly thing I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you want to spoil your grandkids?
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, it's like, what? What? That doesn't, and so
Mhm.
I think grandparents a lot of times, and now we find grandparents are raising children. There's a lot more involvement sometimes. But we had a situation where somebody was raising their grandchildren. When the grandchildren got to be 14 years old, they chose to go back home with their parents.
Mhm.
And it about destroyed the grandparents. Well, you're still a grandparent.
Yeah, you're not a
Right.
parent.
You're not the parent. And children
Mhm.
tend to want to be with their parent, even if they're not so good. And
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
so, I think grandparents can be influential. We can do things, but I think we have to
Mhm.
be very careful. And I see some things that are just out of control. Grandparents, I think some of them are out of control. I don't know.
Yeah, that's how
Uh,
my grandmother is. My grandmother is, I mean, I love my grandma to death, you know what I mean? She's
yeah.
awesome. But when it comes to like my daughter, I mean, they live in South Florida. They don't live near me.
Okay.
So, but the few times I do go down there, that's what she wants to do. Spoil her to death. And we have to like
Yeah.
I mean, I literally am not afraid to make my grandmother mad. Not even a little
Yeah.
bit.
Well,
Like
that's
I'll
good.
tell her straight to her face, absolutely not. Do not give her that. She's not allowed.
Yeah.
And I
You
tell
know,
her that all the time. No, TV, turn it off.
one
She
of the
gets
things,
so mad.
yeah, one of the things when I grew up, it was hard for grandparents to spoil their grandchildren.
Mm,
they didn't have enough money to spoil them.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
we're so affluent, we have so much that
Yeah.
we can do all kinds of things that when I grew up, you couldn't even do. It's
Yeah. You
kind of
can't do that
interesting,
stuff.
but
Yeah.
you can not do it. I mean, you can learn to not do it because just because you have the money doesn't mean you should do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Trust
and
me, I honestly have told my mom at this point, stop bringing toys,
Yeah.
yeah,
stop bringing anything you bring into my house. We only have so much room.
Mhm.
You need to get it
yeah,
approved before you bring it in. And it irritates the
Right.
daylights out of her. But,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
and I understand, like
Well,
my mom's back in Ohio. It's an 8 hour drive. She gets to see the kids FaceTime, and
right.
that's
Yeah.
about the gist of it a lot. So I understand her point, but still, yeah, there has to be a line drawn.
Right.
Yes.
No, you cannot give my kid that,
Oh,
especially
candy.
with all the new stuff coming out about our food and how it's got this in it and that in it and all this other stuff, and
Mhm.
I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I'm a bit of a, health nut. I mean, I still drink a little alcohol, I still have a pizza and a cheeseburger,
Yeah.
I'm still a man,
You can get
but
away with it.
right.
Yeah.
But 90% of the food that I eat, maybe even more than that, is, clean cut meat, clean cut vegetables, as
Yeah.
organic as physically possible. I go to this local place over here where they locally grow a lot of the stuff, local meat, local milk, stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I try to eat that stuff. And it's not because I want to be abs and fit and anything. It's because, the food companies are putting tetrahydrazine in our food and like
Hmm.
what is that? And you read about it and it's like used to melt the skin off of pigs and you're like, why would I eat that? What?
Yeah.
So yeah, so when my grandmother's like, here's like 37 red dye filled gummy bears, and I'm like, absolutely not. You're not putting
Yeah.
that in my kid's body because I don't want her to have diabetes when she's 14. So,
Hmm.
Right.
and then
Well,
she
it's
gets so mad. Oh, but she's a kid. She's got to have candy. No, she does
yeah.
not.
No.
She doesn't even ask
No.
for candy. You know why? Because she doesn't know it exists.
Yeah.
Well, thanks to my mom, my kids know it exists. I, I will admit, my mom does cook great cookies, so I will give her that. She brings
Yeah,
cookies every time she comes. And
There
I
you
told
go.
her,
right,
as long as you're not buying chemical laced food and bringing it into
right.
my house,
Yeah.
Yeah,
then you're fine.
yeah.
And I
And
know
it's
it's
not like I
irritating.
deny my daughter everything.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
she's had candy and cookies, and
Right.
I'm a chocolate freak, so she's
Yeah.
had plenty of chocolate, stuff like that. So, I mean, I let her have the stuff. It's just it's a matter of control and restriction and understanding,
Yep.
you know, what you can and cannot have all the time.
That's right.
And that's one thing that I struggled with because when I was a kid, my dad would be, and my mom and my grandmother would be like, here's a TV. If you're not at school, watch that all night long so I don't have to bother with you. Oh, by the way, here's your three,
TV dinners.
microwavable dinners that we didn't cook that they made probably 5 years ago in a factory with all kinds of chemicals. Eat that for dinner. So now when I grew up and got older, there was like bags of chips and cookies and all over everywhere. So I had to like teach myself not to eat that way. And
Right.
then even after I taught myself to eat right, the cravings are still like, gotta have
Hmm.
this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You can't get rid of them.
Yeah.
So
But I
that's
will
what I
say one
want to,
thing.
that's what I want to avoid for my
Very
daughter.
very seldom do you crave asparagus.
Right.
Oh, I love
I
asparagus.
do like asparagus.
I just had it for lunch. It was good.
You want to know what's the weirdest thing that all of my life that I've always craved? And I crave it every so often, it just randomly pops in my head. So when I was younger, my stepdad would take us out to the middle of the woods because we lived in South Florida and stuff. We go out there deer hunting all the time. And when you're out in the woods, you really don't eat and cook lavish meals, right? It's bread, shove it in your mouth and move on, right? So
Hmm.
you're just trying to not be junky feeling so you can hunt and get the deer at the end of the day, because essentially that's the prize anyways. So my stepdad would bring two big, just fat, round onions, big white ones, a loaf of white bread, and like one or two like bologna stacks, like the old fashioned Oscar Mayer, just bologna.
Yeah.
And he would just get that, 2 pieces of white bread, couple pieces of bologna, and then he would take the onion and he would cut it in a way to where it'd be like this thick, but it'd be like a whole ring. And he would just
Uh,
stick that right in the onion, and that was a sandwich. 2 pieces of bread, piece of onion, and bologna. I don't know
outdoors,
why, but
outdoors food always tastes better.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah,
why, but I crave it
yeah,
all the time.
yeah.
You
I
know,
tell everybody, and they're like, "Ugh." I'm like, oh.
from your comments, there is one thing that came to my mind that does kind of play a part in a lot of stuff is is the fact of the internet. So Mr. Pancakes is talking about how when he grew up, our parents fed us ramen noodles, fed us TV dinners that you threw in the microwave that was in plastic containers covered with thin layers of sheets of plastic
Right.
and all this stuff. I mean, but like I've used my mom as an example because it's the easiest thing for me to do. But like her and I've discussed before, is there's a big difference between what they knew and the fact of we have the internet now to be able to look up stuff, find out all these things, and so on and so on. And I we talked about technology a little bit earlier and the harms that it can cause, but as parents, I also find as parents we need to know how to use technology properly as well to be able to benefit ourselves, know how to eat properly. And I mean, like right now, we're Florida, I'm in Virginia, Pastor Ron, you're in Ohio. And if it wasn't for technology, this wouldn't be happening.
Right.
And this conversation wouldn't be getting out to other people. There's benefits to technology.
Yep.
Do you see, Pastor Ron, do you see the benefits of technology in helping people with learning how to be able to be a better parent, follow the word of God, and things like that?
Oh yeah, yeah. We have information available to us is well, it's just everywhere, and I think what's going to happen. What's going to happen is we're going to have to figure out which people, from my observation, we're not doing very good in a lot of areas, but people are going to have to figure out what's good for them, what's not good for them. People are going to have to know the truth. If you're looking for technology to give you the truth, you're going to really struggle
Mm-hmm.
because there's just all kind. I mean, where would you start? And like you were talking about the flat Earth thing and
Yeah.
things. I'm amazed. I've got people my age that believe some pretty weird things. At least I think they're weird because
Right.
You can,
because they saw it. They saw it on the internet or
yeah.
somebody said it, and I'm like, because somebody said it, it's true.
Mhm.
Now,
Now, I can take the internet and actively make a logical, realistic, and reasonable case for there to be a flat Earth. I
uh-huh.
can, using the internet.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
obviously, I'm logical enough to know, not to mention I've taken a plane so high up, I've seen
yeah,
it, it's not flat.
yeah. Well, yeah,
You know, but
and,
you
and
can use the internet, and there's so much, like you said, there's so much information. You can
yeah.
almost Google anything and find, you know, several different versions,
Okay.
of
Now,
everything.
so
So
what I wonder, and I wonder more than I know, but I wonder with AI, that's only going to complicate things
that's going to get insane.
because and I'm concerned about these people who I are just good people, but they're real, they're simple minded and they believe everybody.
Hmm.
I don't know what they're going to do when this AI really kicks in. I mean, they're not doing very well now.
Right.
And now maybe our children growing up with it, but what's the standard for truth? In other
Right.
words, and personally, I think we still need some kind of standard to measure things against. And for me, it's the Word of God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if somebody says something, okay, what does the Bible say? Now, it may be difficult in some things. You can't get everything exact, but the things that are important, I think the Bible will give us the truth, not what somebody thinks the Bible said,
Hmm.
because now that
Yeah.
can take me all kinds of directions.
Right.
So I think everybody's going to have to kind of figure it out on their own because, I see people listen to this person and that person, and they all believe the Bible, and they none of them
Yeah.
agree. So somebody must not be quite right. So I think we have to stick somehow, get to that truth, and then I don't know. I guess you just hold everything up to a standard and then say, well,
Hmm.
I don't think that's true. Or, yeah. And then there's going to be people trying to trick you. They'll give you some truth, they'll give you half truth to get you down a path. I don't know.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to get interesting, I think.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
So AI has already started. They're calling it. I think they're calling it like internal birthing creations or something. So what it's doing is ba- they're they're basically calling it the first of AI actually giving birth to more. What it means is when AI first came out, it would
hmm
take data and information from the internet and books and everything we've uploaded to the internet, and it would use that information to create whatever else, right? Now, there is so many of these things that it has created, these information sheets, these images, all these different things that AI has already created. All of that was never real in the first place. It was created from something that we made already. That took the real stuff and created a non-real thing. So all of those non-real things are now moved into the position of all the stuff where the real stuff was. And now the real stuff is moved back even further. So now
Yeah.
what it's doing is AI, when somebody's like, I need this, that, and the other, it doesn't even go to the real information. It goes to the information that was created secondarily, and now it's creating a third version of it.
Yeah.
So it's basically like it's giving birth to its own information based off of itself. It's not even using accurate or real information anymore, or
Yeah.
wasn't. Certain
Yeah.
AIs are. It's pretty interesting. It's pretty
Yeah. And
scary.
well,
yeah.
it is. And I guess, again, for me, I have to go, okay, Lord, I believe you're still in charge.
Yeah.
So in the midst of AI, God's still in charge. I don't know what that means. To me, it could mean, and I don't know if it does mean, it could mean that we're getting to a point where he's definitely going to come back because we're going to destroy ourselves pretty soon. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I don't know, but I
Yeah.
can see it. But I got to trust him that, Lord, there's good here. I think there's good. It's like,
Mhm.
there's a lot of technology that's great,
Yeah.
but help us to use it in the right way. That's the
Mhm.
challenge.
I have one last topic I kind of want to hit before I let you go.
All right.
And and that is a concern like for say my family, right?
Yes.
So I'm raising my family. My wife was born, raised in China. But for us here, it's hard to find a church. So the only religious viewpoints my kids are getting is from my discussions with them and reading the Bible.
Uh-huh.
And people like me who don't have a local church. And honestly, it's not like my son's going to sit down and watch YouTube videos of the sermons
Right.
because
Right.
and I don't trust the YouTube channels about God and all this without pre-watching, and that's just hard to keep up on.
Mhm.
What with some people are thinking the end of times is coming, and people have between either the end of times or what if something happens to me or happens to my family before my kids are fully baptized or fully engulfed or dedicated to Jesus and God. What do you say to those families that are concerned about that?
Well, I mean, I guess, I hear and agree with what you're saying about finding a church. Um, I guess I would encourage anybody to keep looking. I would hope there's out there somewhere. There's got to be some good ones. And it could, Eric. I'm not so sure in the future we might be looking at more home churches
Mhm.
where people like you may find two other couples to kind of connect with and just sit down together and meet once a week and pray together and study together. Um, that's kind of how we started some things. That's how our church started. Um, I think there's a chance. Here's what I see. There's a shortage of pastors, number one.
Hmm.
It, churches are having a terrible time finding pastors, a lot of them. Unless you're a mega church, and mega churches can find somebody, because they're big. But the
Hmm.
average church is struggling right now to find a pastor. Now, I believe that God still sees people that have a need. So I wonder if we won't maybe see the startup of more house churches, because I think you need the fellowship. I think you need encouragement. I think you need to be with other believers, whether it's in a church building or whether it's on your own. Now, now see how this doesn't, maybe you can do it with technology. I'm not saying maybe, I think you probably can. I'm
Right.
not sure. I'm not sure how all that plays out.
Hmm.
I'm too old to figure that out. It doesn't feel right to me, but I'm not saying it couldn't work,
Yeah.
Hmm.
where people, you talk, I see we see each other, we can talk. Um,
Right.
we don't have others around, but you can do other people around you. Um, I think the need for the fellowship is always going to be there, and the need for
Hmm.
the encouragement. Um, and like I say, maybe it's going to be in house churches, maybe it's going to be technology, um, or I'm hoping you can still find a good church, but you know, and I don't know. And let me say this about a good church. There's no perfect church. We know that. So,
Right.
we all got our problems, and people a lot of times people like you or don't like you. I mean, as a pastor of a church, they come to my church and they pretty much either like me or don't like me. They don't say, "Wow, those people, I really like those people." No, they'll say, "Well, the pastor, I didn't like him, or I really liked him." I don't know if that's right or wrong. I'm not, but
Right.
Right.
it's kind of how it is. But um,
Yeah.
but I think there's always going to be the need for fellowship and encouragement and learning.
Yeah.
So maybe it doesn't always fit our mold.
Hmm.
Um, we've been trying to build a church, and I think, well, maybe I'm just trying to push a ball uphill.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not going to be the need in the future. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have an answer on some things, but
Right.
um,
It's kind of like the future is kind of the idea of one of the reasons why I created that nonprofit. Now, I'm not going to like blow up next week or nothing and be like the
No.
hugest nonprofit in the country.
yeah,
It probably won't even be a legit sustainable nonprofit for a few years until, as I a little bit at a time build more and more, more and more as much as I can.
right.
But I mean, the whole idea is to use as much of traditions from the past and mold it with is some of the modern style in today's universe and stuff, the things that we do. You know what I mean?
Uh,
Because I mean, granted, it was pretty cool probably back in the 40s and 50s. You know what I mean? It's probably a pretty cool time. We just won the war, so on and so forth. You know what I mean? So everybody's probably like America, so
yeah,
granted, but at the same time, we aren't there. You know what I mean? We're here.
that's right. That's
So
right. That's
we
right.
need to take the information, ideas, and the stuff that they had, which clearly a lot of it was positive and worked, obviously. Then, numbers and things, the whole world was a lot better back then. So we need to take what they had and what they used and their traditions and style and stuff and just implement it and find ways today to implement it in modern society. One of the things that I have is um, uh, a family constitution. So if you go to the website, there's a course that teaches you how to do it. And then there's a downloadable template where you can make your own, obviously,
Uh,
but there's a downloadable template for somebody who doesn't want to make their own, and they can go through it. And basically what it does is like you can do it by yourself to get yourself ready to, move into like marriage or settling down, building a family and stuff like that. Or you can do it with your wife in the beginning of your marriage before you get married or whatever, as like a counseling session to kind of learn to be better for each other. It also sets standards throughout the course of your life. I mean, it's like you were talking about, people kind of go through it for a while and then they maybe like over time kind of lose their way as they forget or this or that or whatever. But well, there's always that standard to go back to and be like, well, hey, honey, it seems like you've kind of lost your way in this. Maybe we need to get back into the family constitution, read it again, resettle ourselves, recenter, and get back to being a family the way we were. You know what I mean? And I think that's something that a lot of people need to start like focusing on. And one of the ideas was to focus family like the most. You know what I mean? Because I was talking about my favorite Bible verse. It's was it First Corinthians 13, I think it's 13 through 17 or whatever it is. It's, the short of it is basically, in the end, nothing matters but family, but people you love. That's it. That's all that matters. You can't take your degree with you. You can't take your $1 million with you.
Yeah,
You can't
that's
take your
right.
stuff, but when you die, when you're laying in bed, you're not going, "Oh, can I have my phone?"
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You're going, I want to hold my wife's hand. I want to hold my child's hand. That's what
Yep.
you want to do. You want the people you love to be there with you because you're about to not be there anymore.
Mhm.
So that all of that is what it's about to focus on. Um, so
Yep.
So, all right, let's do this
Good.
because
mm,
I honestly have probably 10 other ideas that I want to kind of bring up and talk because,
yeah.
to be honest with you, it's not too often I get to say, let's ask a pastor what he thinks about this. Because, well, but the fact is we've been talking for well over an hour now. And again, I could probably make this another two, three, I could make this almost a whole day conversation if we
Yeah.
wanted, but
Yeah.
I don't want to do that to you, especially since this is your first time on with us, Pastor Ron. I want to
There you
give you
go.
kind of
We can always do it again.
Yeah.
that we definitely can, and that I hope we do. So
Mhm.
I know that your church, New Hope, Wayne, Ohio, has a YouTube channel, has a Facebook account, and the website.
Website.
Remind me
Yep.
again, what is the
The
website?
website is newhopewayne.church.
Church, and we'll have that link into the show notes along with
Okay.
a link for the Facebook and the YouTube channel. And if you're watching this on YouTube later, you'll see the church's YouTube channel tagged in here.
All right.
But with that being said, Mr. Pancakes, you want to tell people where
Yeah,
to find
of
you,
course.
find
Yeah. If you guys ever, are looking for me, sorry, want to know more about what I do, pancakeswithyourdad.com, kind of good centralized location. That one's just all about fathers, being better for your kids. There's plenty of resources on there, woodworking stuff, downloadable woodworking plans. Just it's all free, kids books, even some links to some other books and other people that write stuff. But that one's just that one. All the social medias, don't forget about them: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, and True Social. And then of course the nonprofit still going, still doing good. We're still small. We're not Turning Point USA just yet. Maybe one day, but doubt it. Um, but there is a couple courses on there. There's a resources center with some more resources, even more than the Pancakes with Your Dad page as well. So if you would like, go to the website. There are donation areas. It is a legit 501c3. So your donation does not go in my pocket. It goes everything in there. Every penny gets used as much as possible to promote traditional parenting, traditional families, and just traditional Americanism. So
and that's the
this
American Liberty Fund.
American Liberty Foundation.org, or you can go to the short version of it, traditionalsociety.com. Also,
Perfect.
social media. Facebook,
Yes.
Instagram, X, LinkedIn, Truth.
And Call with Dads, obviously, everywhere you go on social media, we're at Call with Dads, but callwithdads.com is the best place to go. Reach out to us. You can watch these live streams. You can ask questions through the YouTube if you go through callwithdads.com, catch all of our podcasts, the audio, and et cetera, et cetera. We have everything on there that we can get on there. And yeah, that's the best that I can suggest. So with that being said, Pastor Ron, thank you very much. Really, I
Thank
do
you.
want to talk to you
Enjoyed it.
again more because, like I said, I have a ton of questions and
Mhm.
it's been definitely a very good and easy conversation, which I do enjoy.
Thanks.
So I'm going to end this for everybody else, but Pastor Ron, if you can hold on for me for just a second, I would appreciate it.
Alrighty.